Hello and welcome to another video, and today I am going over the events of the 19th of August and also some of the stuff that happened yesterday that I didn't get into. So, first of all, we had some news of missiles launched at the Novakakovka Bridge, and those were intercepted, and there was no damage done to the bridge itself. So, there is some footage from the bridge, and it's operational. You have cars passing through and everything, but the fence part is a bit damaged, and you can see where there was a crater. Um, you could see where there was an impact on the bridge, but it is not threatening the base of the bridge, so it is still operational. You can still move supplies through there, and that's after dozens of attempts to bring down these two bridges, but they are still standing. Speaking of strikes and other such things, there were a lot of Ukrainian sabotage attempts behind the enemy lines, and we had two occur in Crimea that I'm going to talk about now. So first of all, at the Belbek International Airport, a UAV was shot down, according to the Russians, and Belbek is over here. You have the airport over here, and I have the link to the video if you're interested. So this might have been like a probing operation to see how good the air defense is over here with like the S-400s, how good they are at intercepting these UAVs, and maybe it will be a target in the future for the sabotage operations, since we saw Ukraine successfully pull off similar operations over here near Fedorivka, and then there was also one near Jankoy. So this is pretty far away from the front lines, even more than the two other airports that were targeted. So it might be more difficult, but it would be a very good target. It has copious amounts of Russian equipment. It has 14 Su-27s and Su-30s. So look out for this place if it will be attacked in the future. It is very far away from the front lines, though, I will say. Like 160 miles, something like that. That's crazy. And even farther away from the front lines is the Kerch Bridge over here, which was also threatened by UAVs, but the air defenses shot them down. And again, this might be a probing operation, just to get a feel of how difficult it would be to damage the bridge. And this is also about 170 miles, something like that. So do look out for these continued Ukrainian sabotage operations in the future. But Russia, they have sort of responded in a way. There were a lot of Russian strikes, especially on Mykolaiv, and we don't even know what they targeted in Mykolaiv because it happens so frequently. So I was looking through, and I did notice that there was some damage to the Black Sea Naval University, but I'm sure that there were many other targets in the city that were destroyed, just given the sheer amount of explosions that are heard almost on a daily basis. And one last thing about the Kherson front is that Russia has reasserted full control over Bilohirka, but Ukraine is still has a bridgehead around Andriivka and Lazova. So do look out for what happens over here. Now let's go on to the Donetsk front, where there's a lot of news to go over. So we had news of Russia actually entering Pavlivka. I'm not sure where they entered, so I can't change the map just yet, but just know that this town is now officially contested, so I will change that right now. It is officially contested. And there was also news of an advance towards Vodyane, and that could potentially mean that this road is cut off, as I talked about yesterday in my video. And that would be a big defeat for the Ukrainians. It would sort of envelop Vuhledar and Pavlivka, as I said before. Besides that, we have news of A lot of fighting in Maryinka. The Russians, they released more footage, specifically the DPR, their 100th Brigade. They showed some videos of them advancing around here and actually taking some POWs, although not too many. There are a lot of trenches in this area. I would assume that those are like in the northern area and the southern part of the front. But also, there's news of a very heavy deployment of mines. So there are a lot of minefields around Marinka, a lot of concrete bunkers being built, and basically every single house over here is being used as a sort of base to fire upon the Russians. So that's the explanation for why it's taking so long. And look, you do have a lot of high-rise buildings, not as much as in Pisky, but you still have these houses that could be used like on the second, third floors to fire upon the Russians. But I will say that after Drewsby Street, there are a lot of like smaller houses that maybe are one or two floors that are more difficult to use for firing positions. So once Russia does break through this new line of defense around here, they might be able to push through this part, the western part of the town, at a bit of a faster pace than they've been doing now. Besides that, we have news from Pisky, where we heard that the Russians are advancing towards this Vodiane, although I don't know the exact situation over here in terms of the front lines. It is safe to say that all of Pisky is under the control of the Russians, but um, Ukraine, they're starting to withdraw from this new defense line that was built around this road junction over here, and they're trying to retreat towards Vodiane. There were some strikes that were recorded over here, and there's a big loss of personnel for the Ukrainians. There's also news of a push towards Pervomaiske, and still we don't have like a concrete like news of where the attack is occurring, but I would say that it is probably going on over here around the Donetsk ring juncture and the planned breeding station, which there's heavy clashes around there at the moment. And of course, once we get some like geolocations from here, I'm going to change the map, like I did with Kamyanka. Although I did see a video of Russian tanks being fired upon, and it was around here, so it is possible that Russians do have a presence in Kamyanka, but Ukraine also does, so that's why I'm leaving it as contested. Besides that, we have news of some strikes in the Donbass area. So first of all, around the Toretsk area, there were some heavy strikes that occurred on a Ukrainian barracks. There was also some strikes on Kramatorsk that were released yesterday. There were some photos of that. And then there were also videos of fires and explosions in Dnipro. And there was also some on other fronts that I will talk about in a second. But let's get into some other changes to the front line. So Zaitsev, it's almost cleared by now. I did have that light blue polygon in here just to indicate that Ukraine does have control of this part of the front. But by now, Russia has actually advanced. They've overrun the Ukrainian lines here, and now they've secured most of the city besides this northwestern part over here, which is heavily fortified. But if Russia were to break through, they can potentially reach this road over here, and then they would have some options that they could go through. So first of all, they could use this to take over this pocket over here and advance towards Toretsk from the north, or they could save that for later and instead advance through this road over here, which is like you have the high ground over here, so it would be difficult. But if they were to reach this lower elevation area, they'd have to first secure all of this area, and then they could pretty easily go northwards, and then maybe flank Kadema, flank Zaitsev, Vesela Dolina. That's something that could happen, but it would be difficult. First, I would say that it would help the effort to reach Bakhmut from the south if Kadema would fall already, which it hasn't been. Russia did release some footage from the Kadema area, although I couldn't find any geolocations for that. I would be interested to see where it is, where it was filmed. Um, Besides that, there wasn't much occurring in Bakhmut, and this is just because you need to secure the flanks first. Attacking such a huge city head on would just be a suicide mission for a lot of the Russian troops. Um, in Solidar, we did have some news though. The Russians, they have a confirmed presence in this school number 14 area, and I gave these residential areas to Russia just based on the fact that they've been advancing around here. They've pushed back the Ukrainians a few blocks, and now the line is pretty solid around here. I would say the goal is to go further deep into Solidar, and this part of the Solidar city is a bit less dense than this part around Bakhmutske, like this area, and then this area. Maybe there can be some sort of advance towards the center around here, but then you could see Ukraine put up a very stiff resistance around these salt mines and this tourist area. So I don't see it falling at the moment, but you could see some advances. We also have news of a lot of things occurring around the Slavyansk area, where there was reports of Russia moving equipment a few days ago, and now it seems as if it's possible that we'll see some sort of Russian counterattack. Not a major one, but maybe to reclaim some of the villages that they have lost over the past month around here. So there was talks about Russia advancing on this town over here, although it's still under Ukrainian control. There was also an assault on Dmitrivka and Vernopilia, on Dibrovne, and also Novo Dmitrivka. So do look out for what happens over here. This might be a new attempt to reach Barvinkova, which is a very important city, and it is overlooked, the importance of this. It is very important in, first of all, supplying the Seversk and Solidar line, but also supplying the Slavyansk line around here, and the capture of it would disrupt the Ukrainian supply lines. So you could see some sort of attack on Dmitrivka, Ridne, and then the road to Barvinkov would be totally open. I'm not sure how heavily fortified this area is by the AFU, but the fact that they were able to recapture some towns does show that they at least have some formidable forces in here. Russia, they also conducted some strikes around here on Mazanivka. So there was news that in the Mazanivka area, the 95th Air Assault Brigade of the AFU was targeted, and they had some positions destroyed around here. But again, look at Mazanivka. It is a very small town, just with one road and a few houses. So the fact that there's so much fighting going on around here is it's pretty interesting. But you know, there are huge forests around here that have to be overrun. I would say that Russia is probably trying to just clear these forests, which is going to be difficult because they can hide from artillery, they can hide from airstrikes, and maybe then there could be some assault on Kurulka, which used to be under the control of the Russians, but Ukraine did recapture it. That's it for the Slavyansk front. And in the Kharkiv front, I don't have much to say, just that, like, I added in these two geolocations from Chris 759 of shelling in Ruski Tishki, which does confirm that the town is still under Ukrainian control, but that the Russians are pretty close to it. In addition, there was news that Baranivka and this other town over here, I might butcher it, but I think it's called Stochny. These two towns over here, that they're reportedly captured by the Russians, but there was no confirmation even by the like more reputable Russian sources or by the like any footage that was released from here. So I don't know if this is true, but it is possible that there will be an attack on these two towns later on. They are pretty close to Zolochiv, so again, look out for what happens around here. In the Belgorod area, though, which is right next to the Kharkiv area, there was a lot of Ukrainian operations. First of all, they destroyed a. They tried at least to destroy a rail track, and there was some like really minor damage, which I'm sure could be repaired pretty quickly. But they had some more successful sabotage operations that I'm going to talk about now. So first of all, in Timonovo in Belgorod, there was a big explosion in an ammo warehouse, and there was also like a secondary explosion caused by that. So the civilians from the town, which I'm gonna look for it now. I'm pretty sure it's this town over here, this one, Timonovo, and then you also have Soloti. So the civilians were evacuated from these two towns, and yeah, you had some damage to the Russian ammo in the area, which is being used to supply the Kharkiv fronts and also probably the Donetsk fronts. In addition to this, there were also explosions at Stary Oskol, and people were saying it occurred at the airfield, but the geolocation of the video was from like a bit further away from the airfield. There was still a big fire nonetheless. So the airfield, I'm pretty sure that the airfield is over here, this one, and then the actual explosion was like 6 miles away. So it did occur around here in this recreational center. Here's the link if you're interested in watching the video. It was around here. So I'm not sure how much damage it could have done if it was so far away from the airfield. But either way, it is a scary prospect for the Russians that Ukraine could go this deep into the front lines, because do look at how far away it is. It's like 100 miles away from the front lines. And then similarly, the fire in the depot, the Amur depot over here, is like 55 miles away. So Ukraine does have a pretty extensive organization of saboteurs beyond the front line. Maybe they're also recruiting the local population in some areas to give them information. The fact that they're able to get through the border like that and actually conduct these operations is pretty impressive. So I would say that they probably have some support from the British, maybe Polish and Americans, NATO, all of that. And again, this could be a major escalation, but we didn't see that large of a Russian response, although there were some major strikes on Kharkiv last night. I don't know if that's just something that regularly happens or if it was specifically in response to those sabotage operations, because there are a lot of SBU formations within Kharkiv which are probably coordinating to carry out these attacks. So that's pretty interesting, and that's all for today. So I'll see you all later, and thank you all for watching.